This is Night Terror, and here, we don't make up stories. We collect the true accounts people wish they could forget, strange encounters, eerie moments, and the kind of fear that follows you home. Tonight, 7 tales from Walmart, where something was waiting, in aisle 9. Look, I know exactly how this sounds when I tell people, but I swear on everything I love that this really happened to me. I'm Alyssa, and I was 22 when this all went down, just wrapping up my junior year at State. I was working part-time at this small bakery while juggling classes, so my wallet was always on life support. My place back then was this cramped studio, about 20 minutes from campus, basically a shoebox with a sink. But I adored having my own space, even if it meant surviving off microwave noodles and the cheapest cereal I could find. But that night in October, everything changed, and to this day, parking lots at night still twist my stomach into knots. I'm not the same girl I was before that Tuesday. See, my best friend Jess always said I was too open, too soft-hearted. I'd hold the door for strangers, lend people money, help anyone who asked. But after that night, I learned the hard way. There's a razor-thin line between being kind and being reckless. That night was just another normal weeknight, really. I just finished cramming for my sociology midterm for 3 miserable hours, and my brain felt like it was dripping out of my ears. My fridge, an actual graveyard, half a jar of peanut butter, some questionable eggs and milk that had definitely turned the corner. So I grabbed my keys and drove over to the Walmart about 15 minutes from my place. It was around 9:10 p.m. when I pulled in parking lot about half full enough cars that it didn't feel creepy, but not exactly buzzing. I remember parking a bit further back, closer to the shadows, honestly. I told myself the extra walk would be good after sitting like a gargoyle all evening. Inside the store was bright and busy night shift workers grabbing essentials, a few students like me in sweatpants comparing cheap noodles. I popped my earbuds in and wandered the aisles for about 40 minutes. Ramen bread, cheap frozen burritos. And because I was feeling reckless, a bag of mini chocolate donuts I hadn't let myself buy in weeks. When I checked out, the cashier, Margot, she's always there on nights, made small talk about how they were putting up fake spider webs for Halloween. I laughed, told her I'd probably spend the holiday half asleep over textbooks. I stepped out through those automatic doors into that cool October air. I'll never forget that moment, this false sense of calm, like the night was hugging me with a breeze. I even paused for a second, closed my eyes, listened to the faint hum of cars on the main road. Then, I started the walk across the lot, 3 plastic bags bumping against my knees, phone buzzing with a text from my study group. My car sat under a flickering light pole. Typical. One of those tall lamps that works just enough to throw weird shadows between the parked cars. I was maybe 40 feet from my driver's side door when I heard it. "Excuse me, miss?" The voice startled me, rough low, coming from my left. I turned and saw this guy leaning against a battered dark SUV, back hatch popped open. He looked to be mid-30s, plain jeans, dark hoodie, pulled up hands jammed into his pockets like he was hiding something. Or maybe trying to look harmless. "Hey, sorry," he called, glancing around before locking eyes with me. "You mind giving me a quick hand?" Threw my back out. Moving furniture got this heavy box to lift. He gestured down by his feet, and sure enough, there was a large cardboard box next to the SUV's bumper. It didn't look that heavy. If anything, it looked suspiciously pristine. No dents, no tape straining. The whole thing felt wrong. The way he stood, angled toward me, how he didn't even pretend to bend down, just stood there waiting for me to close the gap. I shifted my grocery bags offered a polite but firm smile. Sorry, I really gotta get home tonight. I called my steps, never slowing. He didn't move, just watched me with this blank expression that made my spine tingle. I turned my head back forward, pretending I didn't notice him still there. I could feel the weight of his stare clinging to my shoulders as I walked, faster key fob clutched in my hand like a tiny plastic dagger. I was 2 feet from my car when I heard footsteps, soft at first, then faster, closing the space behind me. Before I could spin around fully, a different voice breathed against my ear. Come on, it'll just take a second. This voice was all wrong, smooth, too calm, too close. My stomach dropped. I whipped around and almost slammed into a second guy younger than the first. Maybe mid-20s, baseball cap pulled down to his eyebrows, dark windbreaker zipped up tight. He was standing so close I could smell cheap cologne and stale breath. My brain struggled to process it. 2 men. Not just the guy with the hoodie, just this wasn't random. I stammered out something like, I said, I'm in a hurry, but he stepped closer, blocking the sliver of space between me and my driver's side door. His mouth twitched into this half smile that wasn't really a smile. The hoodie guy was crossing the lot now, box abandoned, like it never mattered. Their eyes flicked to each other, then back to me. That's when it really sank in. I was cornered, boxed in by my own car. Baseball cap guy reached for my arm, that fake, polite tone melting into something more urgent. Just help us real quick. Yeah, 1 second. My grocery bags dug into my forearms as I jerked away, heart pounding so hard I swear I could feel it in my teeth. The wind picked up and whipped my hair into my eyes, but I didn't care. Hoodie guy was maybe 15 feet out now, picking up speed. It was like watching shadows close in. I remembered every safety podcast I'd half listened to, every stupid viral story about girls lured to a second location. I did the only thing I could think of. I dropped my bags, slammed my palm onto my car horn, and screamed. Not a polite help, but a raw, panicked, throat-shredding howl. Baseball cap guy flinched, hand freezing mid-reach. Hoodie guy stopped in his tracks. I think I surprised them. They probably counted on me freezing up, being too polite to make a scene. My horn was still shrieking as I shoved my keys into the lock dove into the driver's seat and slammed the door shut so hard it rattled my rearview mirror. I didn't even look back until the engine roared to life under my trembling fingers. Through my windshield, I saw them scramble, hoodie guy yelling something I couldn't hear. Baseball cap guy glancing around the lot like they were suddenly painfully aware of how exposed they were. They bolted back to the SUV, doors slammed, tires squealed, and then they were gone. Taillights cutting through the darkness, fading onto the main road. I sat there for maybe 20 seconds, lungs heaving like I'd run a marathon, horn still echoing faintly in my ears. Then I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and called 911. I must have sounded half crazed, my voice cracked, words tumbled out faster than I could think. The dispatcher kept me talking, asked me what they looked like, how they spoke, what their car looked like. Within 10 minutes, 2 patrol cars rolled up. The store's night security, I'd never noticed him before, was already making his way over from the entrance, his reflective vest glowing in my headlights. Officer Patel and Officer Tran took my statement. They were calm, gentle, made me feel like I wasn't losing my mind. I told them about the hoodie guy's hoarse voice, the cap, guy's grin, the black SUV with the dent above the right tail light. Officer Patel said they'd heard chatter lately about suspicious approaches in local parking lots, same MO. Same smooth line about helping with a box. Apparently a week earlier, a girl my age at a different store almost went with them, before she got spooked at the last second. They walked me through every detail twice, thanked me for trusting my gut instead of second-guessing myself into being polite. They followed me home that night, lights off, but keeping pace behind me all the way to my lot. I still keep Officer Tran's card in my wallet, just in case. I didn't sleep that night. My groceries stayed scattered across my passenger seat while I sat on my couch replaying it all, the fake, helpless act, the second voice behind my shoulder, the cold calculation in their eyes when they realized I was alone. What would have happened if I hadn't screamed? If I'd been too shy to slam my horn? If no one had been around to hear me? I learned that night how thin the line is between safe and gone. How a well-lit store can't save you if you let your guard down in the dark. And every time I step out into a quiet parking lot, now keys clenched like a blade, I remember those voices and that box that was never meant to be lifted. So here's what happened to me last Wednesday, and I still can't fully believe I let it happen. I'm Kevin, 36, been working construction as a site lead here in Phoenix for about 10 years now. I'd just wrapped up a brutal 12-hour shift pouring concrete for a new office complex downtown, and all I wanted was to grab a couple groceries and maybe a six-pack before heading home to my empty condo to catch the second half of the game. Even though the sun was setting, the Arizona heat was still miserable, had to be close to 108 degrees. And I was dead on my feet, covered in concrete dust brain, half fried from the day. My truck's AC had been acting up for weeks, making that god-awful grinding noise every time I turned it on. So honestly, I was counting down the steps to get inside that blessed Walmart air conditioning. Never in my life did I think a quick grocery run would turn into one of the most humiliating lessons I'd ever get about how stupid you can be when you're tired and not paying attention. I parked my old beat-up Silverado way out near the back edge of the lot like I always do. Some clown had dented my door last month and didn't leave a note, so now I try to keep it away from the main drag. The place was packed kids, screaming, families dragging overloaded carts, teenagers hanging around their cars, blasting music too loud, old folks shuffling along at half speed, just a normal Wednesday night at the busiest Walmart in town. I grabbed my wallet from the cup holder, checked that my debit card hadn't magically disappeared, and started the sweaty walk toward the sliding doors. The asphalt was so hot, I could feel it through my boots, and the stink of exhaust mixed with that sticky tar smell had my stomach turning. I was maybe halfway across the lot when he showed up like he'd been waiting behind some minivan just for me. Looked totally average mid-40s, maybe khakis, clean polo shirt, sensible sneakers, wedding ring, and that neat brown hair going gray around the temples. Suburban dad all the way. He was carrying this big cardboard box, had to be 3, maybe 4 feet long, taped up tight with clear packing tape. He kept shifting it from arm to arm like it weighed a ton. When he spotted me, he lit up like I was Santa Claus. "Excuse me, sir." He called out, his voice riding that edge between desperate and polite that immediately kicks in your instinct to help. He lowered the box to the pavement with a grunt, wiped sweat off his brow, and forced a nervous laugh. "Look, I know this is gonna sound weird, but I really need a hand. My wife ordered this fancy sound system online for our anniversary. Problem is, it's the wrong damn model. I have to get it returned today, or she's gonna kill me." He gestured helplessly at the box, like it was a bomb about to go off. Then he pulled out his wallet and fumbled out a crumpled receipt, big blue Walmart logo and everything. Looked legit enough. "Only thing is, I forgot my ID at home like a complete idiot," he said, forcing another chuckle. "Store policy says no ID, no return. I've been driving around for an hour trying to figure out what to do. Listen, I'll give you $40 cash right now if you just walk it in for me and hand it to customer service. Just need someone with an ID." He thumbed out two 20s, held them out like they were magic keys. And man, after the day I'd had, $40 is $40. I'd been covering some bills for my sister on top of rent and groceries. So yeah, every extra dollar counted. He must have seen the hesitation on my face because he pulled out his phone and flicked through photos. Him, a woman about his age, two kids all grinning at some Mexican place downtown. Family man. Harmless, right? Look, I get it. It sounds shady, he said, eyes darting around like he expected me to run off with the box. But you'd really be doing me a solid here. Just hand it to customer service, get the store credit or refund, that's it. 5 minutes max. I'll wait right here by my car, the silver Toyota over there. He gestured vaguely to a patch of cars, more than one silver Toyota, I noticed later. My brain was already halfway to the cold beer aisle and the cheap steaks I was going to upgrade to ribeyes with that $40. So I said sure. Took the cash pocketed. It adjusted my grip on the box when he handed it over. It was heavy. Felt like real electronics shifting around inside. Tape was cut and retaped, but that made sense if the wife opened it first. Just tell them it's the wrong model, that's all you gotta say. Happens all the time, he said already, backing away with his phone up to his ear, fake calling someone. Man, you're a lifesaver. My wife, Alyssa, she's gonna be so grateful, you have no idea. And that was that. He faded back toward the cars, and I pushed through the whooshing doors into that heavenly blast of AC like nothing was wrong. Inside the place was chaos, bleeping scanners, kids having meltdowns in carts, that dull hum of a million people trying to get home. I headed straight for the customer service counter, hugging the awkward box to my chest. There were 3 people ahead of me, one lady practically yelling at a teenager about some expired coupon. By the time I got up there, my arms were screaming from holding the thing. The kid behind the counter, Zach, said his name tag, looked about 19, probably his first real job. Hey there, what can I help you with tonight? He said, eyes half dead, from customer after customer. I dropped the box on the counter with a dull thud, handed him the receipt. Need to return this wrong model, apparently. Zach nodded like he did this 50 times a day. No problem happens all the time. Can I see your ID, sir? I fished my license from my wallet, handed it over, watched him compare it to the receipt, then to his computer screen. That's when his eyebrows went up. He looked from the screen to my ID, then to the box, then back to the screen. Hang on just a sec, sir. I'm gonna need to grab my manager. Before I could ask anything, he disappeared through the swinging door to the back. A woman behind me muttered something about how long it was gonna take. I just stood there trying to look normal, but my stomach was doing cartwheels. Less than a minute later, he came back with a woman who looked like she'd been working retail since the dawn of time. Sharon, her vest said. Big, bold manager. She didn't smile. Sir, I'm Sharon, the shift manager, she said, voice flat as a pancake. She scooped up the receipt, typed something fast. Mind if I ask where you purchased this? I blinked at her, thrown off. Here, that's the receipt, right? She nodded without looking up, kept typing. And when did you buy this? I was sweating all over again despite the AC, says 3 days ago. She stopped typing. Finally looked up, her eyes were steel. And how did you pay for it? I stared back like an idiot. Cash, I guess. She glanced at Zach. He glanced back. My guts sank through the floor. Sir, this item was reported stolen from our electronics department yesterday. She said every word landing like a hammer. Serial number matches exactly. It was like the air got sucked out of the store. I stammered something, can't remember what. Told her about the man in the parking lot. The $40, the receipt, the sob story about the wife. Her mouth tightened. Sir, I'm going to need you to step aside while we call security. A pair of uniformed guys showed up within minutes, all business but not rude. They led me to the side office, asked me to sit down, took my statement. Sharon was on the phone, nodding grimly. It got worse when they pulled up the security footage. There he was, Mr. Suburban Dad Crystal, clear-handing me the box, pocketing his phone, fake smile plastered on his face. Sharon clicked back through the days before same man, same box, same scam. He'd hit 3 people that week alone. The cops came next. Officer Ramirez, older guy, calm voice, clearly seen this 100 times. Told me it was a growing scam, crooks stealing electronics, forging a fake receipt, then tricking tired idiots like me into returning it for them. Ramirez said I wouldn't be charged. The footage cleared me, but they'd need me if they ever caught the guy. He made sure I knew my $40 was gone for good evidence. By the time they let me go, it was after 10:00 p.m. 3 hours wasted, a stomach full of knots and the deepest embarrassment I'd felt since middle school. As I walked back to my truck, scanning every silver Toyota in the lot, I knew that guy was long gone. Box or no box. Now, every time I pull into a Walmart lot, I can't help but check over my shoulder because there's always another smooth talker waiting for a tired mark. If you've ever nearly fallen for something like this, or if you'd never let it happen, tell me in the comments below. I need to know I'm not the only idiot out there. Tuesday evenings were my ritual. Grocery shopping after 8 hours, buried under contracts at the small law firm where I'd worked for the last 5 years. My name's Rebecca. I'm 36 now, and ever since my separation, this dull, routine Walmart Highway 169 Minneapolis was my anchor. Park by the garden center. Grab a cart. Start with fruit, end with frozen dinners. For 3 steady years, that loop was my reset button. Early October, that crisp bite in the air that makes your sleeves feel softer. I remember I was still wearing my navy blazer from the office, humming along to some mindless pop song while picking through the avocados, oblivious to the fact that someone had made my routine theirs too. It started in produce. I was debating bagged salads when I heard it, not a question, just my name. Flat Rebecca. I turned. A man. Maybe early 40s, average-build twins, cap a dark green hoodie. His cologne hit first woody, overpowering. His eyes, this weird pale gray, never quite locked on mine, like he was staring at my shoulder instead. I gave that polite smile people give when they're hoping they're mistaken. Do we know each other? I asked, my hand tightening around the cart handle. He tilted his head, a touch, smiled faintly. It made something in my ribs tighten. Rebecca, you don't remember me? His voice gentle, almost hurt. He stepped closer. I clocked his sneakers, spotless white. Brand new. Your hair's nice like that, he murmured, flicking a finger at my messy bun. I liked the braid you wore last Friday too, but this suits you better. The braid. The same dumb side braid I always wore on Fridays for court days. My heart thudded so hard I felt it in my teeth. I stammered something about running late, pushed my cart toward the deli. Fast. My brain scrambled for explanations. Old classmates, same office building. Just awkward, but my gut was ice. At the deli counter, I was glad for the line body's witnesses. I stared at the overhead menu like it was scripture. When the kid behind the counter called my number, I croaked out, "Half a pound of turkey, please." My voice half buried in the hum of refrigerators. It should have ended there. I prayed it would. 10 minutes later, I was debating cereal, Special K or granola. That's when I felt it, that same presence. I looked up. There he was, far end of the aisle. Frosted Flakes box in hand, eyes pinned to me. Not moving, not shopping, watching. I left my cereal behind, cut through sporting goods, automotive, My cart only half full, but my skin was crawling. Walmart had never felt so huge and so suffocating all at once. I reached the pharmacy area, busier, brighter people picking up cold meds, small talk with cashiers. Safe. I ducked into the shampoo aisle, pretending to scan ingredients I didn't read. Then squeak. Cartwheels behind me. That cologne, unmistakable. Rebecca, again. My name in his mouth like he owned it. You use lavender shampoo, right? I smell it sometimes when you pass me. Pass him. Where I snatched the closest bottle and dropped it in my cart, spun to face him. Up close, I saw more a thin white scar through his left brow, fingernails manicured, an expensive silver watch catching the harsh fluorescent light. Who are you? Stop following me. My voice didn't tremble. I didn't know how. He blinked slow. Smile curled again. Following Rebecca, we're just shopping. Don't you think you're overreacting? Overreacting, said like a private joke. He reached over, grabbed conditioner, his arm brushed mine. I flinched. You know stress isn't healthy, he continued lightly. Maybe use that meditation app more. The one with the British woman's voice. Helps you sleep right. The bottle slipped, hit the tile with a hollow crack. The app, I'd only mentioned it once to my cousin on the phone. How I left the shampoo, left the aisle, pushed my cart so hard it rattled. My mind hissed, out, out. But another voice, the too rational one, whispered excuses he overheard. A weird prank, a coworker. My breath rattled in my throat. At checkout, I skipped self-checkout, too isolated. I picked the longest line right behind a woman with toddlers bickering over a candy bar. Safety and chaos. That's when I saw him again. Next line over. 3 items, Frosted Flakes, zip ties, disposable camera. Who even bought disposable cameras anymore? He didn't look at me, just laid his items down neat as prayer beads. But the angle of his head said he knew exactly where I stood. The cashier handed him his receipt. He turned, eyes caught mine. He winked. Winked. Walked toward the exit. Didn't leave. He leaned near customer service, pretending to scroll his phone. The cashier asked if I'd found everything okay. I nearly laughed or cried, but nodded. My hands trembled, swiping my card. I kept peeking at the service desk. Still there. I made a snap choice, not the main exit. Garden Center. My car. My safe spot. Walking back through that Walmart was like wading through wet concrete past the skeleton Halloween displays, the cheap pet toys, the wall of sad goldfish. I kept glancing back. No gray hoodie. Garden Center empty, echoing. One employee spraying mums with a hose. Doors whooshed open. Cold October air kissed my face. Blessed chill. There she was, my Navy Civic little dent by the tail light, the good luck charm my nephew made swinging from the rear view. Unlock, in, doors locked, breathe. In the rear view, Walmart doors, empty, no sign of him. I sat a full minute, willing my heartbeat down. The drive home was blurry headlights and a pit in my gut. I checked my mirrors so often I nearly swerved twice. Doubled back once. No tail, but I was still sure. The garage under my building felt like a fortress. Inside my apartment, I threw the deadbolt, clicked the chain, dumped the grocery bag on the counter. Sad Hall, turkey yogurt, Rogue crackers. My office blouse stuck to my back with sweat. I changed into sweats, poured a full glass of Cabernet, sat on my couch. Should I call the police? Tell them what? That a man knew my name, my shampoo, my private apps? They'd tell me to check my privacy settings. So I did. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Double-checked every toggle. Googled myself, work bio, an old 10K result, nothing else. The next day, Thursday, should have felt normal. I buried myself in work, stayed late revising a brief due next week, convinced myself he was no one. some sad creep with too much time. Then home, heating leftover stir fry, phone ping Facebook, friend request Jason Miller, no friends, new profile. But the picture? I dropped my phone, my car, my Civic, garden center entrance behind it. Same angle I'd seen in my rear view. Timestamp Tuesday night. While I'd been breathing relief behind locked doors, he'd been feet away taking my picture. I didn't sleep. Friday I called in sick, changed my locks, installed a doorbell cam, filed a report with a bored desk cop who half smiled when I mentioned the shampoo. Could be anyone. He said it like I was the suspicious one. Days blurred. I changed Store's Target on the other side of town, wore my hair loose, deleted my old grocery route from memory. I installed a personal safety app, shared my location with my cousin. I scanned for that gray hoodie every time I turned a corner. I never saw him again. The Facebook account vanished after 3 days. Eventually, my life draped back into something like normal. But I never went back to that Walmart by Highway 169. Sometimes on my couch with that same lavender shampoo scent in my hair, I wonder who he was, how he knew so much, what he wanted. But mostly, I thank God I'm here to wonder at all, because not everyone who finds out they're being watched gets to walk away. If you'd look over your shoulder too, share this story, drop a comment or hit follow. Just stay alert. Sometimes fear is the only thing that keeps you alive. I'm Alex, 38, been working as a contractor here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, for over a decade now. Last Thursday afternoon is something I'll probably be replaying in my head for a long time. My wife Natalie had texted me around lunch asking if I could swing by Walmart on my way back from a site check. Just the usual milk, cereal, eggs, bread. She was slammed with work calls and couldn't get away. I hate hitting the store during the week, especially around 4 in the afternoon when everyone's off work or picking up kids. By the time I got there, the place was packed. Half the regular checkout lanes were closed, so everyone was funneled toward that miserable row of self-checkout machines that never work like they're supposed to. I grabbed what we needed, the usual basics, and made my way over there, already annoyed about fighting with those finicky scanners. The self-checkout area was humming. 8 machines running, maybe 20 people in line, kids whining, someone's baby crying somewhere in the back. When it was finally my turn, I ended up at the machine right by the sliding exit doors. Perfect spot for someone to rush you out, I remember thinking. I started scanning milk, beeped through fine bread needed, 3 tries, apples had to be weighed and keyed in. Right as I was tapping in the produce code, I felt someone come up on my left. I glanced over. She was standing closer than you'd stand next to your own family in line. Early 30s, maybe. She wore this pale yellow hoodie and ripped jeans hair pulled back in a messy knot that looked like it hadn't been brushed in days. Her hand was wrapped tight around a crumpled receipt, and a big canvas bag hung awkwardly off her shoulder. "Hey, excuse me, sir? Sorry, I really hate to bother you," she said. Her voice was all high-pitched, full of fake-sounding worry. "I just checked out at this machine right here, and I think it charged me twice for everything. It glitched right when I swiped, and now the receipt shows everything doubled." She flicked the receipt at me but kept moving it like a magician's trick, never letting me really see it. Her eyes kept flicking from me to the exit doors to my wallet on the shelf under the scanner. I half listened while bagging my stuff. She said the attendant told her to go to customer service, but the line was miles long and she had to pick up her kid from preschool. Then she dropped it. "Could you just help me real quick? If you run your card through the reader with my screen open, it'll show the old charges. That way, I can prove I got double billed." The way she said it made my skin crawl. Run my card through her transaction. I've used these machines more times than I care to count. There's no diagnostic mode. Once you hit pay, that's it. I kept glancing at her tote bag. She was angling it open, like she wanted to drop something inside real quick if she had to. I'm sorry, I said, trying to keep my voice calm, though my pulse was ticking up fast. These machines don't work like that. If you got charged twice, customer service is the only way. I really can't help. She stepped closer, so close her perfume hit me something cheap and sickly sweet that made my eyes sting. No. The attendant said there's a special mode. If you stick your card in and press cancel 3 times, it pulls up the transaction. I swear it works, please. I just need to show you. Her hand darted toward the card slot on my machine, those shaky fingers that thumb pressed over most of the receipt again. That's when I really looked in her tote bag. There wasn't a single grocery item inside, just a tangle of paper scraps, a wallet, and something small and black with a faint blue light on it. I stepped back, blocking the reader with my arm. Look, the service desk is right there, I said, pointing across the store. They'll help you get it sorted properly. The mask dropped right then. Her eyes narrowed, the worried voice vanished. Fine, she snapped. I was just trying to make it easy for you too. She backed away, but I saw her eyes flick to my wallet just as I pulled out my debit card. She didn't head for customer service. I pretended to scan another item so I could watch her. She floated over to another self-checkout, this time an older man, with a cane and a basket of bread and canned soup. I heard her start the exact same story, that whiny pitch back in her voice. He looked confused, kept glancing at his screen, and then at her. When he shook his head, she drifted toward a mom with 2 toddlers climbing the cart. Same routine, same sad eyes, same receipt trick. I finished paying and bagged up fast. Part of me wanted to walk over and say something, warn the mom maybe, but I hesitated. What if I was wrong? What if she was just desperate? As I stood there stuck in my own head, I saw one of the Walmart workers, kid in a blue vest, clock the woman and start over. She saw him coming and vanished down an aisle like smoke slipping through a crack. I loaded up my truck and drove home, feeling that itch in my brain the whole way. Natalie was home already. She'd wrapped her last meeting early. I told her about the weird woman while we put away the groceries. She didn't even blink. That was a scam, she said flatly. Bet she had one of those card readers in that bag. I brushed it off until about 9 that night when my phone buzzed. Fraud alert from my bank. Did you authorize $364.12 to Quick Shop Electronics? My stomach dropped so hard I nearly lost my dinner. I opened the app, 3 more charges, all online, all made in the last hour. $200 to something called Gear Best Deals, another for $119.99 to an electronics outlet I'd never heard of. I showed Natalie. She opened her laptop and started a call to the bank's fraud line while I just stood there trying to wrap my head around how the only place I'd used that card all day was Walmart, and the only one near my card reader was that woman. When the rep came on, she didn't sound surprised. "Sir, did anyone approach you or stand close when you inserted your card?" she asked. I told her. She sighed. "We've had multiple calls about that store today. It sounds like a portable skimmer. They can read your card's chip info if they're close enough when you insert it. Some of these scammers carry a bag or purse that hides the device. Did you see anything like that? I didn't sleep much that night." Next morning, I went back to Walmart, asked for the manager. He brought out security, a big guy named Curtis. I told him everything. He didn't even flinch. "We've been tracking her all week," he said, pulling up camera footage. There she was, clear as day, that yellow hoodie, that canvas bag. Over and over again, same move. Wait by the self-checkout Target, someone distracted. She never actually bought anything, just moved from mark to mark until she got what she wanted. Curtis showed me stills of that bag, too. Inside, they'd caught a clear shot of a small black device with a blinking light. "That's the skimmer," he said. "She never touches your card. She just needs you to stick it in while she's close enough. Sometimes they'll get you to insert it multiple times so they get a clean read. We're working with the cops to nail her." A week later, I saw her face on the news caught trying to pull the same stunt at a different Walmart across town. Police had found the portable skimmer and half a dozen cloned cards in her car. Turns out she was part of a larger crew that had hit stores in 3 states. I got lucky. The bank froze. The charges refunded my money and sent me a new card with extra security. But I can't stop thinking about how easily I could have handed her everything if I hadn't paid attention to that gut feeling. It's wild how quick a normal grocery run can turn into a reminder that someone's always looking for a way to skim what you've worked for. I don't think I'll ever stand at a self-checkout again without glancing over my shoulder. Look up. I needed something halfway decent to wear for my cousin Lauren's engagement dinner, and with barely 5 days to find it online, shopping wasn't an option. I'm Jenna, 27, a dental assistant at downtown Brookdale Dental here in town. That Wednesday had already drained me 7 hours of back-to-back cleanings, 2 extractions that ran late, and a teenager who nearly puked on me during fluoride treatment. By 6:00 p.m., all I wanted was my couch cheap wine and some trashy true crime show to make me forget I even had a job. But Lauren's party was that Sunday, and my closet was a graveyard of things that didn't fit or looked wrong. So I forced myself to stop at the Walmart off Harrison Avenue, telling myself I'd be in and out within the hour. A quick mission for a cheap dress, maybe some new sandals if I felt wild. The parking lot looked half dead, maybe 20 cars scattered across the huge, cracked asphalt. I parked under the flickering streetlight by the garden center and told myself it'd be quick. Inside, the place felt weird, hollow. The women's section spread out under buzzing lights, racks lined up so straight they looked untouched. I grabbed a basket, drifted through the aisles half awake, pulled a black dress that looked country club safe, a floral wrap I didn't really love, and a yellow blouse that might go with jeans if the dress didn't work out. Nobody else was around except for this older lady mumbling at the clearance rack, holding up a sundress so close to her face I thought she might sniff it. I passed her with a polite smile and headed for the fitting rooms. That corner always felt a little forgotten. 6 doors, a dingy hallway, a mirror at the far end that made you feel like you were walking into some cheap maze. The counter where an employee usually sat was empty. A sign scribbled in blue marker on copy paper said, "Limit 6 items. Be honest." Thanks. The lights overhead hummed like a hive. I picked stall number 4, door cracked, light already on. It smelled like carpet glue and leftover body spray. I hung my purse on the hook, draped my options up, and slipped into the black dress first. It fit. Better than I expected, honestly hugged just enough. Hit my knees, didn't make me look like I was heading to a funeral. I turned side to side, admiring myself in the scratched mirror. That's when the overhead bulb flickered, not the dramatic horror movie flicker, just that slow dimming and brightening that makes your eyes second-guess shadows. I rolled my eyes. Probably old wiring. I tugged off the dress and reached for the wrap dress. Something soft brushed my shoulder. I thought it was a loose thread. I flicked it away, but the white grit stuck to my fingertips. I looked at it closer. Ceiling tile dust. My stomach dropped. Instinct, you look up. Same way you'd check for a water leak. Above me, the cheap drop ceiling squares were dingy white framed in old metal rails. The one right overhead had a dark slit where it didn't sit flush, maybe half an inch of gap. More tiny specks drifted down in the flickering light, dancing like fake snow. I was halfway annoyed, ready to move to another stall until something moved. 2 fingers, pale, resting on the edge of the tile, gripping it. They curled down, tugging the square back just a hair, and behind them, teeth. Just teeth and the curve of a chin lit by the ghost light overhead. I screamed. Didn't even feel it build. It ripped straight out of my chest. I yanked the door so hard it slammed back into the wall. I ran barefoot in my bra, and the wrap dress half-zipped, my heart slamming so hard it made my ears ring. The mumbling lady by clearance turned, eyes huge, mouth open like she wanted to scream with me. "Someone's in the ceiling!" I shouted, pointing, my voice breaking. "He's up there, call someone." She dropped her purse, fumbled for her phone. I pressed my back to the hallway wall, hugging my arms around my chest. I couldn't stop looking at that stall door. Any second, I expected a hand to snake out, or worse. It didn't take long. 2 security guards jogged over from the electronics section. One was a scrawny kid named Ray, acne scars bright under the neon lights. The other was older, heavy badge, reading Morris. He had that tired look, like he'd seen too many shoplifters, but never this. I babbled. The fingers, the ceiling tile, the face. Morris called for backup, his voice low but urgent, then told Ray to stay with me. Ray draped his jacket over my shoulders. I realized I was shaking so hard my teeth chattered. Police showed up next. Blue lights through the plate glass doors. They strung yellow tape across the fitting room entrance like they were sealing up a crime scene, which I guess they were. Morris disappeared inside with a flashlight. I watched him lean in, tilt the beam. His expression cracked like wet plaster. "Get real units in here now," he barked. More cops, ladders, store managers with radio earpieces whispering to each other, eyes flicking at me like I was part of the mess they'd have to explain to corporate. They found him within 20 minutes. Jason McKay, 35. No job, no fixed address. His record, multiple voyeurism charges back in Nevada, restraining order from an ex-girlfriend in Tucson. He'd climbed up through an old maintenance hatch in the stockroom ceiling when the store opened, dragging a duffel of food, water, phone chargers. His own filthy nest above the changing stalls. When they pulled him down, his face was blank. Dust streaked his hair. Insulation clung to his collar. I saw his phone in an evidence bag, later mounted on a cracked tripod, holes drilled through 3 different ceiling tiles, each giving him a perfect view of whoever stepped in. Me, some teen trying on prom dresses, a mom wrangling her kid in and out of jeans. Detective Reza Patel took my statement while the store emptied out behind us, an ocean of plastic carts and quiet apologies. He asked if I'd noticed anything, noises, odd bumps. I couldn't answer without picturing those fingers over and over. Patel told me they found hundreds of videos. Girls my age, older women, kids. The store manager, sweaty guy named Lawrence, offered me a gift card, tried to talk about their zero tolerance policy like that would fix any part of it. I barely heard him. Patel drove me home because my hands were still trembling too much to grip the wheel. I didn't sleep. Every creak in my apartment made me scan the ceiling. The next day, my roommate Chelsea found me standing on a chair with a flashlight jammed into the AC vent over the bathroom. I'd pulled the vent cover off and stacked it neatly on the toilet tank. She asked me what I was doing when I told her face changed, like the air went colder. I've never used a public fitting room the same way again. First thing I do, look up, check the corners, check the light. Even at the gym, I feel my heart pound when I see ceiling panels. Jason McKay pled guilty to multiple counts. The tapes alone were enough. 7 years. Lifetime registry. Patel called to tell me when the sentencing happened. He said the store chain changed policies, added ceiling sensors and daily checks. But what about all the other places that haven't? Lauren's engagement dinner came and went. I wore a wrinkled dress from the back of my closet. Nobody asked. Some stories don't belong at dinner tables. They belong exactly here in your head next time you're alone behind a thin stall door thinking nobody can see you. Look up, always. I graduated high school last May, and like a lot of kids my age, I spent the first part of summer drowning in job applications and rejection emails. My parents were relentless about it, always reminding me that money doesn't just appear, and I needed to start acting like an adult. I must have applied everywhere, in Millfield diners, grocery stores, even the gas station down by the highway. Nothing stuck. By the time mid-June rolled around, I was feeling pretty useless, lying awake at night imagining my friends all landing jobs and me still broke at home. Then, out of nowhere, one Thursday morning in late June, I got an email that made my stomach flip. It was supposedly from Target, one of the stores I'd practically begged for work weeks ago. The message looked official enough: Target logo, polite wording instructions about what to bring, even a manager's name. The interview was for Friday at 3:00 p.m. I remember Mom's face when I told her. She was so relieved. She started rattling off what I should wear and how maybe I'd get an employee discount we could use. That whole afternoon, I rehearsed answers about my greatest weakness and where I see myself in 5 years. I picked out my only pair of decent khakis and ironed my shirt twice. The next day, I barely ate. My nerves were chewing me up already. Dad dropped me off an hour early, giving me the same old talk about eye contact and a firm handshake. The Target was busy as usual, rows of cars filling the parking lot, parents wrangling kids, carts clattering over the asphalt. I went inside with my folder of printouts and IDs, trying to look like someone worth hiring. The greeter, an older guy named Joe, asked if I needed help, and I told him I was there for an interview. He pointed me toward guest services. When I explained to the girl at the counter, she just blinked at me. She had no idea what I was talking about. She got her supervisor, a woman named Stacy, who looked equally confused. She told me to hang tight while she radioed the back office. While I was standing there shifting my weight from foot to foot, I noticed this guy across the store, mid-40s, maybe wearing a red polo and tan slacks that looked pretty close to what Target managers wear. He had salt and pepper hair glasses and this clipboard tucked under his arm like he was doing inventory. He kept glancing my way. After maybe 10 awkward minutes, he strode over, all smiles and firm handshake. "You must be Nathan Wright," he said. His grip was a little too tight. "I'm Greg Phillips, store manager. Sorry for the confusion. We've got a new scheduling system that's messing with everyone. You ready for this?" I felt myself relax a little. He seemed legit enough. He flipped through my folder, nodding, asking small talk questions. Then he did something that set my teeth on edge. He glanced around the busy store and leaned in. "Hey, Nathan, we're doing a lot of remodeling in our back offices right now. It's chaos back there. How about we step out to my car for the interview? Nice and quiet. I've got AC bottled water. We'll be done in 15 minutes. My stomach nodded instantly. Mom's voice in my head. "If something feels wrong, trust it." In your car?" I asked. Greg chuckled. "Hey, I know it's a little unusual, but between the noise and customers, this is really the only way I can focus on you today. Don't worry, you'll love what I have to offer." He gestured toward the sliding doors, and I spotted it through the glass, a silver van, newer model, parked alone under a tree at the far edge of the lot. Way too far. Something about it made my palms sweat. I hesitated. Greg's smile didn't reach his eyes anymore. He pressed. Listen, I've got 3 other candidates after you. This is your shot, bud. I don't like wasting people's time. I stood there frozen. Then I heard my mom's voice again. Trust your gut. I think I'd rather wait until the remodel is done, I said, my voice barely steady. Maybe I can come back next week and do this properly inside. For a second, Greg's whole friendly act slipped. His eyes went flat. Then he forced a smile back on. Suit yourself, he said sharply. But we value adaptability here. Maybe this job isn't for you after all. He turned and headed for the exit. I watched him march straight to that silver van. But he didn't drive off. He just sat there. 5 minutes passed, 10. Then I saw him get out and approach another kid near the carts, a girl about my age alone. He stopped her, pointed toward the van. She shook her head, quickened her pace into the store. Greg just stood there, scanning the lot. My skin crawled. I went back to Stacy and blurted the whole thing. Her face went white. We don't have a Greg Phillips working here, she said, and we'd never ever do interviews in a car. Wait here. She grabbed the security supervisor, a tall guy named Aaron. He asked me to describe Greg in detail. When we peeked outside, the van was gone. Aaron said he'd seen security tapes this same man had been seen hanging around the lot for days, always alone, always drifting near kids or young adults. He pulled me aside. You did the right thing, he said. We've filed reports already. The cops are involved. But you're the first one to talk to him long enough to get all these details. I felt sick. Dad came back to get me. I told him everything in the car. He gripped the wheel so tight his knuckles turned white. We're lucky you listened to your gut, he kept saying. That night, a detective called Detective Rachel Moore. She'd been tracking a man matching Greg's description across 2 counties. Fake job offers, fake emails. Always a van, always kids alone. She asked me to come in and work with a sketch artist. The next day, I sat with a woman named Karen. She asked a million questions: the shape of Greg's nose, how his glasses sat, even how his mouth tightened when he got irritated. The final sketch made my stomach turn. It was him. Detective Moore told me they'd share it with nearby stores and push it out to local news. She said my report might be the break they needed. 2 weeks later, she called back. They'd arrested a man named Kenneth Mayer after he lured a girl into his van outside a pharmacy 2 towns over. She'd managed to escape when he stopped at a red light. Her story matched mine exactly. My sketch and statement sealed the deal. When they searched his van, they found duct tape rope and a box of fake company badges. Mayer had done this before. He'd been in and out of jail for impersonation and luring minors. I still think about that van sometimes, how close I came to stepping inside, how different my summer might have ended. Now, whenever my friends complain about how hard it is to get hired, I tell them, trust your gut. No job is worth your life. Working nights at Walmart isn't exactly anyone's dream, but it keeps my lights on. I'm Rosa, and for the past 4 years I've been part of the overnight cleaning crew at the Supercenter out on Route 46. At 38, people assume I should have things figured out by now, but after my divorce last spring, this job became my anchor. The pay's not much, but the health plan's decent. And honestly, I'd rather deal with empty aisles at 3 a.m. than grumpy customers in the daylight. My shift runs from 9:30 p.m. to 5:30 a.m., and by now I know every square foot of that place like the lines on my own hands. The humming of the overheads changes pitch depending where you stand. The freezer units have this rhythmic click when the compressors kick in, and I swear I can tell which shopping cart is squeaky just by the echo it makes near the dairy section. That Wednesday night started the same as any other. October had brought an early bite to the Pennsylvania air, and I remember hugging my old gray hoodie closer as I climbed out of my battered Corolla and walked under the flickering street lamps to the employee entrance. The lot was mostly empty, a few scattered cars belonging to other night shift folks, all of us ghosts moving in and out under yellow sodium light. Inside, the place had that strange, peaceful hush that only exists when the doors are locked for the night. Aisles perfectly faced, shelves full again after the chaos of the day. The only sounds were the distant hum of the refrigeration units and the soft diagnostic beeps from the self-checkouts doing their nightly checks. My supervisor, Aaron, gave us the usual rundown during the short huddle by the break room. Standard order clean customer restrooms, then the break area, then the employee sections before mopping the main floor. By 2 a.m., I'd knocked out most of my list, already headphones in one ear, half listening to a spooky podcast to keep my mind busy. The customer restrooms were quick, just the usual paper towels clogging the sinks and soap dispensers that needed refilling. The break room was its usual mess. Someone had microwaved something spicy and left half of it exploded on the rotating plate. Classic day shift. By 2:45 a.m., I was feeling ahead of schedule, which usually meant I'd get to sneak a longer coffee break near the bakery where it's warmest. I pushed my squeaky cart down the back hallway toward the small employee restroom near the stock offices. It's tucked away behind the time clock. People use it all day long, but overnight, it's dead quiet. When I turned the corner, I saw the light was on inside, which caught me off guard. We're religious about lights around here. Corporate wants those pennies saved. The door was cracked open just enough to leak that harsh, flickering, fluorescent glow into the dim hall. I knocked out of habit, learned my lesson my first week when I barged in on a shift lead. I called out soft, "Hey, anybody in here?" Silence. I nudged the door open with my hip, steering my cart through the narrow gap. And there she was, a little girl, maybe 5 or 6, sitting cross-legged dead center on the cold tile. She had shoulder-length pale hair that looked greasy and unbrushed, wearing a faded pink tee with a cartoon I didn't recognize, and jeans rolled up at the cuffs. Her small sneakers were untied laces splayed like limp worms on the wet floor. She was so still, it didn't look real, like a mannequin dumped there by mistake. What got me was her eyes. Wide open blue, but dull somehow, not blinking. She didn't flinch when I clattered my cart through the door, just sat there back straight, tiny hands resting on her knees, staring straight into me, like she'd been waiting. My brain short-circuited. I stood there frozen, one hand locked on the handle so tight my knuckles hurt. 1,000 questions hit me all at once. Who leaves a kid in here at nearly 3 a.m.? Where were her parents? How'd she even get past the locked doors? She didn't move, didn't twitch, didn't blink. The buzzing light overhead made her skin look paper white. I swear I couldn't even hear her breathing, just the click of the freezer compressors out front and my own blood rushing in my ears. I managed to push air through my throat. "Sweetie," I said so soft it barely came out. "What are you doing here? Where's your mom or dad?" Nothing. Not a blink, just that stare. I edged a step closer, leaving my cart half blocking the door. "Hey, are you okay?" My voice bounced weird off the tile, echoing back to me. "My name's Rosa. I work here. Can you tell me your name?" Her eyes didn't follow my mouth. It was like they were pinned straight through me, seeing something way behind my head. Then, without so much as a breath or shift in her weight, she stood up. Just rose smooth and silent, like someone hit rewind on a film. She stepped toward me, slow shoelaces whispering over the floor. I stumbled back, bumping my cart. A spray bottle of glass cleaner clattered to the ground, the crash exploding in that tiny room. She didn't flinch, didn't glance down, just kept coming. When she reached me, she didn't break her stare or sidestep. She slid right past, so close I could have touched her hair, but something deep in my gut screamed, "Don't." Instead, I caught this faint whiff that made my stomach twist. Not kid smell, not crayons or soap. Old, musty, like wet basement carpet or an attic box you shouldn't open. She drifted out the door, turned left toward the dark hallway that winds to the back storage, and her footsteps were near silent except for the drag of her shoelaces. I stood there glued to the bathroom tiles, counting my own heartbeats. Logic said, go after her, grab her hand, figure this out. But my feet wouldn't budge. Something in the air felt wrong, like if I touched her, she'd crumble to dust. It was maybe a minute before I finally stepped out into the hall. The corridor stretched out under that flickering overhead light, but she was gone. No little figure, no echo of footsteps. Just empty linoleum and the hum of the freezers back near dairy. I walked fast, nearly ran, cartwheels rattling behind me. At the corridor's end, I peeked left to the receiving bay, right to the old electronics stockroom, and ahead to the fire exit. Nothing. I even called out my own voice, sounded stupid and fake in that cavernous quiet. Just me, a faint echo, and that creeping, musty smell clinging to my clothes. Panic kicked in. I left my cart there and half jogged through the cold store to Aaron's office up front. He was hunched over the schedule log, half asleep on his elbow. "Aaron," I blurted before I was even fully through the door. "There's a kid here, a little girl, in the back employee restroom. Now she's gone." He blinked, sat up, scanning my face for the usual overnight nonsense. But he knew me, knew I wasn't the type for stories. He keyed his mic, called Shane and Tori over the radio. We huddled at customer service 5 minutes later, 3 adults whispering in a bright aisle surrounded by locked sliding doors and endless fluorescent hum. I described her, the hair, the shirt, the laces dragging on the floor. I could see the look pass between Shane and Tori. That maybe you're overtired look. But Aaron didn't brush me off. He pulled the camera feeds up on the dusty old monitor behind the register. We scrubbed through every second, watched me walk up to the bathroom, disappear inside, reappear, pacing the hall. No kid, not before, not after, nothing. I felt my face burn when I heard Tori sigh. Shane tried to be polite about it, but they didn't believe me. Aaron kept rewinding the footage, checking the angles, replaying the timestamps. A plastic bag drifting across the floor at 2:20 showed up clear as day, but no child. We searched anyway, split up, called out soft, so we wouldn't freak each other out more than we already were. Shane checked grocery. Tori swept home goods. I went back to the employee corridor, my cart abandoned where I'd left it. I half expected to see her back on the floor, sitting there stiff and blank-eyed, but there was nothing except my own reflection in the cracked mirror and the faint outline of a tiny wet footprint on the tile, small, sneaker-shaped, half-dried by the time I spotted it under the buzzing light. When we regrouped at the front around 4 a.m., no one had found so much as a scrap of fabric or a handprint. Aaron said he'd log it alert day shift check with asset protection, but his voice was flat routine. I could tell he thought I'd imagined it. I almost wanted to agree, but I couldn't explain that footprint or that smell that still lingered in my nose. I finished my shift running on fumes, jumping at every echo from the aisles. When I clocked out near dawn and stepped into the cold parking lot, I couldn't stop myself from glancing back at the store's dark windows. I half expected to see her standing there behind the glass staring out at me with those wide, empty eyes. I never did. But I think about her every night I walk that back corridor alone. Maybe she's lost. Maybe she's stuck. Maybe she was never a child at all. I just know I don't check that restroom without knocking now, and I leave the light on every time.